So now we do the question for November 2020. Question number 2, part B. November 2020, question number 2, part B. November 2020, question number 2, part B. November 2020, question number 2, part B. Go to the question number 2, part B. So that question is still on labor. You can check on page 10. You can check on page 10. So the question reads that a company uses 2 methods to remunerate its casual workers as follows. A company uses 2 methods to remunerate its casual workers as follows. So the first bullet, the piece rate with the guaranteed time rate. The piece rate with the guaranteed time rate. So the company will pay its casual workers shillings 25 for every good output produced by them. Then any spoiled output is paid at a rate of 10 shillings and a penalty of 8% is charged based on the rate of the good production. The employees are granted a minimum monthly pay of 8,000, a minimum monthly pay of 8,000. So there is also a differential piece rate. There is also a differential piece rate where an employee is compensated on the piece rate basis, and the following schedule is applied to determine his or her remuneration. So number of the units were given, rate of wages per unit is also given. So they gave you the details that the spoiled units are deducted from the first production paid at a rate of 10% per annum, and a penalty of 8% will be applied at the differential rate for the first production. 3 employees of the company produced the following number of the units during the month of March 2020. So you are given employee Abongo, Banyala, and Clara, number of the units produced. They were also able to give you the spoiled units. So required determine the wages payable to each employee under the 2 labor remuneration method. Under the 2 labor remuneration method. Then Roman letter 2, advise each employee on the best labor remuneration method to accept based on your compensation in part B, Roman letter 1 above. So this time the question is testing the 2 methods of remunerating the workers. There could be the time rate or the piece rate. It could be the time rate or simply the piece rate. So we start with checking now about the piece rate. We start with the one for the piece rate method of remuneration. We start with the piece rate method of remuneration. So we start with the first one, which is meant to be the piece rate method of remuneration. The piece rate method of remuneration. We start off with the piece rate method of remuneration. So when it comes to the piece rate, with guaranteed time rate. Piece rate with guaranteed time rate. Guaranteed time rate. So when it comes to the piece rate with the guaranteed time rate, So when you go to that, they say that the company pays its casual workers shillings 25 for every good output produced by them. Any spoil output is paid at a rate of 10%, and a penalty of 8% is charged based on the rate of the good production. So employees are granted a minimum monthly pay of 8,000. So we start the first worker, who is meant to be a bongo. We start with a bongo. So they have the minimum wage. They already have the minimum wage, where they say that granted minimum monthly pay. So we have minimum monthly pay, or simply the guaranteed pay. So the basic pay, we can refer to it as the basic pay. So basic pay is given. You see, under the piece rate, the current time rate, the monthly pay is 8,000. Guaranteed 8,000 at that question. That will be guaranteed 8,000. So that's now the guaranteed wage. Then they have said that the company pays casual workers at 25 for every good output produced. For every good output produced. So now, apart from that, they are now paid the 28, 25 for every good unit produced. So when you check down there among the employees, a bongo number of things produced were 2,000, but the spoiled ones were 200. So that means 1,800 are good units. So we want now to get the pay for the good units. Pay for good units. So good units will now be, according to the, because it's supposed to be 2,000, but 200 are spoiled. So good units are 1,800. So this one you multiply by 25. Then also pay for spoiled units. So this one will be 200 multiplied by the spoiled. They were paid. The spoiled, they were paid at 10 shillings. So the spoiled, they were able to be paid at 10 shillings. The spoiled being paid at 10 shillings. Then now you less the penalty. Less the penalty. So they said that any spoiled output is paid at a rate of 10, and a penalty of 8% is charged based on the rate of good production. So we now less the penalty. We now less the penalty. Now less the penalty. Subtract the penalty. So penalty is on the spoiled units. The spoiled units, they are 200. But the penalty was meant to be 8%. A penalty of 8% charged based on the rate of good production. So it will be 8% of the good production, which is 25. But this one you subtract, so that you now get the total salary, the total pay. The total pay for a bongo, so that you get the total pay for a bongo. So that we get the total pay for a bongo. So you give me the figures. I don't have anyone in the physical class, so all of you are online. So remember to give me the values. So that is now for Abongo. The next one is supposed to be Banyala. So we now also go to Banyala. Now also check for Banyala. So for Banyala, the basic pay. Banyala, the basic pay. It remains 8,000. Then pay for the good rates. Pay for the good units. So good units, when it comes to Banyala, was supposed to make 1,800, but 100 was spoiled. So you are left with 1,700. So this one you multiply by 25. Then there is now pay for the spoiled units. Then you less the penalty. So penalty will be 100 multiplied by 8% of the 25. So that one you subtract. That one you subtract in order to get the pay for that. So finally, you do the same for so we start with the basic pay. Then pay for good units. So the pay for the good units. So it should be 1,600. Then pay for the spoiled units. So the spoiled, this one is 15 multiplied by 10. Then now you also less the penalty. You also subtract the penalty. So for the penalty, it is on the spoiled. So that is now for the piece rate with granted time rate. That's now for the piece rate with granted time rate. So you have not given me the figures. You let me know. Abongo was able to get a total pay of how much? Bunyala the same, also Charlie the same. So you give me those figures. So we now go to the granted, the piece rate. So differential piece rate. We got the differential piece rate. We now got the differential piece rate. So we should now have the differential piece rate. So we now got the differential piece rate. Differential piece rate. So when it comes to the differential piece rate, when it comes to the differential piece rate, so we start with the one when you got, they say that an employee is compensated on the piece rate basis, and the following schedule is applied to determine his or her remuneration. They gave you number of the units, rate of the wages per unit. So when you are producing between 1 to 250, the rate is 15. So 251 to 500 is 20. 501 to 1,000 is 25. Over 1,000 it is 30. So the spoil units are deducted from the first production and paid at a rate of 100 per unit. And a penalty of 8% will be applied at the differential rate of the first production. So 3 things. So we start with a bonus. We start off with a bonus. So when it comes to this one, there was no guaranteed minimum wage, but they are saying that when you are paying them between 1 to 250, they pay 15. But out of the 250, we subtract the spoiled from that. So the spoiled ones, they are paid at 10 shillings from there. Then the rest, we go by that. So we start with the good units. So first, we start with the first production. So the first production, they are categorized into 2. The first one, they are categorized into 2. So you can simply say the first 250, So we categorize them into two. So in that first one, there are good units because the spoiled were 200. The spoiled were 200. So good units will be 50. The good units will be 50 because the spoiled ones are subtracted from the first. That's what the question had stated. The spoiled are deducted from the first production and paid at a rate of 10. So the good ones will now be 50. So the 15, you pay 20, you pay 15. The good ones will pay 15. Then we have now the spoiled. So the spoiled are now the 200. This one they pay 10. The spoiled will be able to pay 10. So that's now the first 250. Then the next 250. Next 250. So this one, you simply take the 250 multiplied by, they were charged at 20. So multiplied by 20. Then the next 500. The next 500. So next 500, you simply take 500, but this one you multiply by 25. So you multiply by 25. Then over 1,000. So Abomo was meant to make 2,000 units. So 2,000 units. But now we have subtracted 1,000. So the balance will now be the next. So now we have the balance. So the balance is the same as 1,000. So the 1,000, you value them. You value them at 30. Value them at 30. Then from that total, now you less the penalty. We minus the penalty. So the penalty was meant to be deducted, to be charged on the first production. The penalty is for the spoiled. So the spoiled were 200. So the penalty is 8% of 15 because it is 8% of the price of the good units for the first. So that now should be able to give you for Abomo. That one should give you for Abomo. That one should give you for Abomo. So apart from Abomo, the next one is supposed to be Banyala. The next one is meant to be Banyala. The next one is meant to be the one for Banyala. So for Banyala, we start off with the first 250. So the first 250 are classified into two. Good units and the spoiled. So you have good units. Good units. So for Banyala, the spoiled were 100. That means good units will now be 150. So 150, you value them at 15. Then spoiled. The spoiled will now be 100. The spoiled is 100. So this one they charge, they are paid at 10. So that's now in the first 250. Then the next 250. The next 250. So this one, you simply take 250 multiplied by 20. Then the next 500. The next 500. So the 500, you charge them as 25. Then now the balance. Now the balance. So you are supposed to make 1,800. So far, we have spent 1,000. So the balance is going to be 800. The balance is going to be 800. So the 800, you value them at that. Then now you less the penalty. Yes. The penalty. So penalty is on the spoiled. The penalty is on the spoiled. So that penalty, the spoiled were 100. So you get 8% of 15. Because the penalty was charged on the good price. So you get the value of it. So that's now for Manyala. So I want you to do the same for the Charlie. You do the same now for Charlie and give me the values. So do the same for Charlie and then you give me the values so that we compare them. Do the same for Charlie. Then you give me the so that we compare them. Then from there, we shall have finished the labor costing. We shall have finished the labor costing. So what are the new figures for this method? Give me the one for differential for Abongo, Banyala, and Charlie. So that we make now the final conclusion. So that we conclude in the Roman letter 2. So what are your figures? So that I conclude on the Roman letter 3. Roman letter 2, sorry. Someone to give me the figures? What are the findings that you have calculated? So I can see 50,010 for Abong, and then the next one should be then 44,630. Then the last one should be which figure? Umepata ngapi at the last one? The last one is for Charlie. So that now will form the base of our Roman letter to advise each employee on the best labor remuneration method to accept based on your computation in Roman letter 1 above. So for the worker, you pick the one with the highest. For the worker, you pick the one for the highest. For the employer, you pick the one with the lowest. So for Abongo, so Abongo should pick which method? So Abongo, from the information you have given me, it should be able to select the piece rate. Abongo should select the piece rate because I can see he was getting 54,600, but now it is 15,010 shillings. When it comes to Banyala, Manyala before it was 51, but now it is 44. So going by the information I can see, I advise them to select the piece rate. We advise them to select the piece rate because it is where they are earning more. We advise them to select the piece rate because it is where they are earning more. It is where they are earning more. So that is now all about labor. That's now all about labor. So we have now concluded labor costing. So the next item, I want us now to go to the next item. We shall now go to will be overheads. So we now go to the overheads. Now go to the overheads. We should now go to the overheads. So when it comes to the overheads, we summarize that these are the operating costs of the business. These are the operating costs of the business. They are the operating costs of the business, which cannot be identified, to a particular cost unit. These are the operating costs of the business, which cannot be identified to a particular cost unit, which cannot be identified to a particular cost units, which cannot be identified to a particular cost unit. Then we continue by writing that overheads are indirect costs. Overheads are indirect costs, which would not vary with the level of the output, which will not vary with the level of the output, which will not vary with the level of the output, unless they are specifically stated as, variable overheads, unless they are specifically stated as variable overheads, unless they are specifically stated as the variable overheads. Then another paragraph, you summarize that they are also the indirect labor. They are also indirect labor. They are also indirect labor, comma, indirect materials, indirect materials and expenses, indirect materials and expenses, indirect materials and expenses. They may also include costs. They may also include costs which can be identified. They may also include the costs which cannot be identified. They may also include the costs which cannot be identified directly to a specific cost unit. They may also include the costs which cannot be identified directly to a specific cost units, So that's now when it comes to the overheads. So we can now write something brief about apportionment and allocation of the overheads. Apportionment and allocation of the overheads. Apportionment and the allocation of the overheads. Apportionment and allocation of the overheads. Apportionment and allocation of the overheads. So we start with apportionment of the overheads. We start off with apportionment of the overheads. So when it comes to the apportionment of the overheads, we summarize that it is the distribution or sharing of the amount of the overheads. It is the distribution or sharing of the amount of the overheads. Distribution or sharing of the amount of the overheads to various departments or sections. To the various departments or sections. Using the appropriate base. So it is the distribution or sharing of the amount of the overheads to the various departments or sections using the appropriate base. Then we continue by writing that The base should be the cost driver. The base should be the cost driver. The base should be the cost driver that will lead to the occurrence of the overheads. The base should be the cost driver that will lead to the occurrence of the overheads. The base should be the driver that will lead to the occurrence of the overheads. So we can now control by noting that examples of the overheads and the base will include examples of the overheads and the base will include examples of the overheads and the base will include examples of the overheads and the base will include. So we can have it summarized in this manner. So the overheads and the base. So we have overheads and the base. So the first one, I will be having it as rent and rates. So rent and rates, we apportion them on the basis of the floor area occupied. Floor area occupied. The floor area occupied. The floor area occupied. So when you want to apportion the rent and rates, you use the floor area occupied. So the number two, I can have electricity. So electricity, we use it in two items. One of them will be lighting. So when you use it for lighting, we also use the floor area occupied. When we use it for lighting, we also use the floor area occupied. Then we can also use it for heating. And lighting. So when we use it for heating and lighting, not light, but cooking, heating and cooking. So this one we use the kilowatts. We apply the kilowatts. Apply the kilowatts. Then number three will be insurance. Number three should be insurance. So when it comes to insurance, we use the value of the asset being insured. Value of the asset being insured. Value of the asset being insured. The next one will be depreciation. Number four, we talk about depreciation. So when it is depreciation, we use the value of the asset being depreciated. We use value of the asset being depreciated. Value of the asset being depreciated. Then number five, we can have it as employer's liability. Employer's liability. So employer liability, we use the wages paid. We use wages paid. Employers' liability, we use the wages paid. Then we also have supervision. So supervision, we use the number of the workers or employees. Number of the workers or employees. The number of the workers or employees. The next one should be canteen expenses. We also have the canteen expenses. So for the canteen expenses, we use number of workers. Number of workers. For the canteen expenses, we use the number of the workers. So those are some of the examples of the overheads and the base that we should be coming across when we want to apportion the overheads. So after that, that's now the apportionment. We now go to the allocation of the overheads. The next item should now be allocation of the overheads. The other one was apportionment. Now we go to the allocation of the overheads. Allocation of the overheads. We now look at the allocation. Allocation of the overheads. We now look at the allocation of the overheads. So for the allocation of the overheads, we summarize that it is the distribution of the overheads. It is the distribution of the overheads during the budgeting process. It is the distribution of the overheads during the budgeting process. It is the distribution of the overheads during the budgeting process. During the budgeting process. During the budgeting process, where overheads are apportioned, where the overheads are apportioned using the cost driver, where overheads are apportioned using the cost driver, using the cost driver to apportion the overheads. To apportion the overheads to the various departments, to apportion the overheads to the various departments, to apportion the overheads to the various departments, Then another paragraph is that overheads will be allocated on the basis of overheads will be allocated on the basis of overhead absorption rate. Will be allocated on the basis of the overheads absorption rate. Will be allocated on the basis of the overheads absorption rates. The overheads absorption rates, which is calculated as follows. So overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate is supposed to be equal to total overheads, then we divide by overhead absorption rates. The overheads absorption rates. Then we shall be able to express it as a percentage. So overhead absorption rate will be equal to the total overheads. We divide by overheads absorption rate. Then we express it as a percentage. Then we express it as a percentage. Then we express it as a percentage. So we can now have examples where we have the base. Then apart from the base, now we shall have the formula for that. We shall now be having the formula for that question. So the first one we shall be having as direct materials. So you can be having the base as direct materials. As the direct materials. So direct materials, the formula for that, overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate. It will be equal to the total overheads. Total overheads. So you divide by the direct material costs. Divide by material costs. Divide by material costs. Then we should be able to express it as a percentage. We should be able to express it as a percentage. The next one will be labor costs. Number 2 should be the labor costs. So for the labor cost, overheads absorption rate, it will be given by the total overheads. Total overheads, we divide by the labor cost. Divide by the labor costs, then we should be able to express it as a percentage. So the next one will be the prime costs. So number 3, we can have it as prime costs. So number 3, we can have it as the prime costs. So if you have the prime cost to compute overhead absorption rate, you simply take the total overhead costs. Total overheads. So divide by the prime costs. Then express it as a percentage. The prime cost, then express it as a percentage. So the next one will be accumulated costs. So number 4 should be accumulated costs. So for the accumulated costs, overhead absorption rate will be given by the total overheads. Total overheads. Also divide by the accumulated costs. And also expressed as a percentage. So the next one will be machine hours. The next one will be machine hours. So we divide by the number of the machine hours. Then express it as number percentage. So the next one will be the labor hours. So for the labor hours, absorption rate. So this one is not a percentage. So for the labor hours, it is just shillings per hour. For the labor machine hours and labor hours, we shall not be multiplying by 100. So this one is total overheads. You also divide by the number of the labor hours. Number of labor hours. Number of the labor hours. Then the last one will be number of the units. So when it comes to the number of the units, overhead absorption rate, the overheads absorption rate. So you also get the total overheads. The total overheads. Then divide by the number of the units. Divide by number of. So those are simply some of the examples, but there will be many more others which you can be able to use so that you can now apportion the overheads, so that you can now apportion the overheads to the various departments, so that you can be able to apportion the overheads to the various departments. So I want us to get one of the questions from your past papers to see how we can be able to apportion those overheads. So I want us now to have a question. So the first question I want us to go through, the first question I want us to go through, there is a question for November 2019. November 2019. So we checked the question for November 2019. There is a question number 3, part B. November 2019. There is a question number 3, part B. November 2019. There is a question number 3, part B. November 2019. There is a question number 3, part B. So that question 3, part B is about Supreme Limited is a company that specializes. Supreme Limited is a company that specializes in making high quality furniture to the customers. That makes high quality furniture to the customers' orders. The company has 3 production departments and 2 service departments. So it has 3 production departments and 2 service departments. So budgeted overhead costs for the year ending. So budgeted overhead costs for the year ending 30th April 2020 are as follows. So they gave you rent and rates. So when you want to apportion rent and rates, from the information I've given you up there, we use the area occupied. We shall be able to apply the area occupied. Then machine insurance. So machine insurance, we shall be using the value of the machines. Machine insurance, we shall be using the value of the machines. Then telephone charges. Telephone charges, ordinarily we use the floor area. Telephone charges, we use the floor area. The area that is highly occupied, it will incur higher costs. Then depreciation, we shall be using the value of the machine being depreciated. Depreciation, we shall be using the value of the machine being depreciated. Then the production supervisor's salary, that one we use the wages paid. The production supervisor's salary, we shall use the wages paid. So heating and lighting, we shall still be using the floor area because those figures we pick from what has been provided, whereby they continue to say that the 3 production department A, B, and C, and the 2 service departments, and the 2 service department X and Y are housed in the new premises, the details of which, together with the other statistics and the information are provided below. So they gave you the department A, B, C, also X and Y. Floor area occupied in square meters, machine value, direct labor hours, labor rate per hour, overhead allocated as per the specific proportions. So they gave you the allocated ones, then how to apportion the service X costs and also service Y costs. So when it comes to the required, the next page, Roman letter 1, they wanted you to get the overhead analysis sheet. The overheads analysis sheet showing the overhead cost budget for each department and the base of apportionment used. And the base of apportionment used. Roman letter 2, 2 pieces of furniture are to be manufactured for the customers. The following information relates to the 2 pieces of the furnitures. There is job 123, job 124. Direct materials they have given you. Then hours, they gave you department A, B, and C. So required, they wanted you to get the total production cost for each department. The total production cost for each department. So that's now the question we should be able to come up with. whereby we need to apportion the cost based on the base that is provided, based on the bases that are provided. So when you are answering that question, there is a structure which we need to come up with. When answering that question, there is a structure we need to come up with. But for now, it may not be able to be up to the end because the transactions that are required may be too much for me now. So that question, I want us to carry it forward to the next class, because if I start it now, I will not be able to finish it. Because I want us to do it up to the end so that it makes some sense up to that level. So I will just stop there for today. When we meet now in the next class, we shall do the question comprehensively. We shall now be able to do the question comprehensively in our next class. So I want us to stop there for now.